Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Throne of Steel episode number 177 based on novel. So let's start. As a result of the previous day's domain battle, Chen Hongyu had already displayed dissatisfaction. His sudden raising of an objection immediately caught all the surrounding attention. Everyone's gaze landed on him. Chen Hongyu stood up, a calm look on his face. I express opposition to the proposal of making me a vice-chairman of the union. Yan Haohan looked at him in shock, doubtfully responding, Brother Chen, you must think it over. You represent the spiritual temple. Chen Hongyu calmly explained, I have already thought it through clearly. I only need to stay as a mere council member. This vice-chairmanship should belong to the new head of our spiritual temple. What? A new head? Hearing such words, the whole audience were greatly alarmed. In fact, the spiritual temple and night temple were not the same. The spiritual temple had always had only one head. The spiritual temple's head shifting was an extremely big matter for the Temple Alliance, the main point being that no one had gotten any prior notice. Chen Hongyu's announcement was just too sudden. Chen Hongyu declared calmly, what is strange in that? Our spiritual temple has always been democratically ruled, centered around a temple head that must have capability. My temple's Chen Yinga has already reached the 9th step of cultivation and has the mythological beast domain, which is superior to my own. Moreover, she's the first spiritual saint daughter of my spiritual temple, and has inherited the temple's divine tool spiritual saint robe. She couldn't be more fitting to lead my spiritual temple as its head. Therefore, I naturally ought to leave her this vice-chairman position. Yesterday evening, our spiritual temple has already given a unified approval. Everyone seated on the rostrum could be said to have all different expressions. Long Haochen had an expression of shock, while the other heads of the temples all cursed secretly, what a wily old fox. How could it not be so? At the time of the temple's great gathering, Chen Hongyu's play was marvelous. Not only did he harshly oppose Long Haochen, he even questioned him in the later domain battle. And upon reaching this critical juncture, he made a full turn by directly handing the temple's ownership over to Chen Yinga. This implied that Bright Glimmer of Hope already had two major positions in the temple union. In the meantime, having one of their people among the vice-chairmen meant that a situation in which the 6 vice-chairmen would unite to impeach Long Haochen to deprive him from the chairman position would no longer be possible. This favor was simply immeasurable. Even Li Xingxi couldn't help but sigh secretly. How calculating! Chen Hongyu's sudden abdication was not only shocking, but could also gain Bright Glimmer of Hope's favor, as well as being a move to indirectly get the Night Temple to owe him. Truly, it was a profound move. Just after Chen Hongyu said this, he walked away from the raised stage, making a sign to Chen Yinga while walking to the side of the spiritual temple in an easygoing manner. Chen Yinga was baffled by her grandfather's move, but had no other choice but to go up on stage at that time. Forcing herself to walk up to the rostrum under multitudinous gazes, she took Chen Hongyu's previous seat. This instant, the assassin temple's Xing Yu unhappily uttered, this old thing, you're really taking a step ahead of me. I had the same proposal going on, our assassin temple's headmaster has already been replaced by Kia as well. There's no need for words to prove her ability. Everyone has seen her domain of purification, and moreover she's the god of death's inheritor, bestowed with the same spiritual stove of samsara as the scion of samsara of that time. But she has, in some sense, already surpassed the latter. Ever since taking over this inheritance in her youth, she has already been settled as our assassin temple's successor. Kia, come up. From now on, you are the head of the assassin temple and, in my stead, the candidate of the assassin temple for vice-chairmanship. Long Haochen was actually not so surprised about Xing Yu's proposal. After all, it was now a long time since when Xing Yu had expressed that he'd let Kia take over his position. As such, Kia also went up. It took just an instant for 3 places on the rostrum to be filled with members of Bright Glimmer of Hope. Yan Haohan declared, as such, we will proceed with the meeting. Is there any other objection? As he asked that, he didn't expect for there to really be a response. The warrior temple's head Chiao Yonghao suddenly stood up, and declared, I am also getting old and am getting no good. Under my leadership, the warrior temple has gotten its worst results in history out of this session of the temple's great gathering. I truly have no more face left to act as temple head. I have already discussed this matter last evening with the rest of our representatives, and today, the seat of the head of the warrior temple shall be left to the younger generation. I hope that under her leadership, the warrior temple will have a brilliant future in the union resisting demonkind. Yuan, please go up. What? Me? Seeing the look on Chiu Yonghao's face as he watched her, Wang Yuanyuan couldn't help but feel overwhelmed for a moment. Chiu Yonghao heaved a smile. Who else but you could it be? Or, don't tell me you think there's someone else in our warrior temple's younger generation that could contend with you? I have personally watched all the efforts you have put up. The world shall be left to you youngsters. Saying that, he walked out from his original seat. This moment, everyone on the rostrum could truly be said to be overwhelmed with shock. Xingyu passed his place to Kia because she was originally his successor, and great-granddaughter as well. As for Chen Hongyu, although his announcement was rather more sudden, Chen Ying's status in the spiritual temple was originally already pretty much the same as Kia's in the assassin temple. But in the warrior temple, Chiu Yonghao could really be said to have no ties with Wang Yuanyuan, who had never returned to the warrior temple after becoming a demon hunter. Yet his firm decision of leaving her the future of the warrior temple's leadership at that very moment was fully unwavering. This wasn't just a sudden idea Chiu Yonghao just had. Upon Wang Yuanyuan's return when she had come looking for him, as she showed a strength reaching the 9th step, Chiu Yonghao had already such thoughts. Wang Yuanyuan may possibly be a bit lacking compared to Long Haochen or Kia, but absolutely no one in the warrior temple could match the future her. Even in bright glimmer of hope, her ranking was among the top, already being a domain-wielding powerhouse. With the addition of her original status of being part of bright glimmer of hope, no one was more fitting to represent the warrior temple. Chiu Yonghao had a great understanding of Wang Yuanyuan's character, and as such, he believed that after Wang Yuanyuan succeeded him as the warrior temple's head, she would definitely contribute to its future. Under his gaze, Wang Yuanyuan stood, taking large strides toward the rostrum. When she arrived in front of Chiu Yonghao, she was unaware her eyes had turned reddish. Grandpa Chiu, Chiu Yonghao heaved a smile, patting on her shoulder. No need for words. I am not doing this for you, but for the future of our warrior temple. I trust that you will definitely do well. After saying that, he personally pulled his previous chair, and lightly pushed Wang Yuanyuan into it. With a weight off his mind, he walked down from the platform, heading to sit among the powerhouses of the warrior temple. Such big changes actually occurred to the chairman and vice-chairman candidacies. Yang Haohan, who was taking charge of the meeting, was in great shock, but despite that, the meeting had to keep going on. Fortunately, these changes did not impact the rest of the process. The rest of the election went exceptionally smoothly. Long Haochen became the first chairman of the Temple Union without a hitch, with the vice-chairman being Long Qianying, Li Xingxi, Ling Xiao, Kia, Chen Yinge, and Wang Yuanyuan. Bright Glimmer of Hope actually occupied 4 of these major seats. The reason why no one objected was that the proposing parties were temple heads, as well as because of the power Bright Glimmer of Hope had displayed in the temple's great gathering. Long Haochen, Kia, Chen Yinge, and Wang Yuanyuan were all domain-wielding powerhouses. Being under the lead of these young powerhouses would undoubtedly have a tremendously good impact on their respective temples. After the chairman and vice-chairman election came an election among the 6 great temples for selecting 36 representatives, excluding from the count the chairman and vice-chairman. It was an acceptable outcome for the temples that Long Haochen became the first chairman of the Temple Union. As such, the rest of the meeting also proceeded without a hitch. In just 2 hours the whole election was completed. Yang Haohan declared, "The election is over. The Union will now inform our citizens, attempting to make it so that within 1 month, all humankind is aware of the Union's foundation. Also, the Union has a lot work to be done. The integration of the 6 great temples is the most pressing matter. Next, the first chairman of our Temple Union shall speak a few words for us." Long Haochen nodded to Yang Haohan before sending his greetings to the rest of the 6 great temples. Then he declared in his limpid voice, "I am honored that you elected me as your first Union chairman. I can feel a very heavy burden on my shoulders." As Alliance head Yang said, the election of a new Union chairman will take place every 10 years, to take over from the previous one. Perhaps the current system of our new Union is not perfect yet, but I believe that it will definitely get better and better in the future. The most important matter after the foundation of the Union is to integrate the forces of our 6 temples, to become a match for demonkind. Most of our next efforts will be concentrated on that. As your chairman, I can guarantee everyone that within the 10 years of my office, I will definitely launch the counterattack against demonkind and start recovering the land that has been taken away from us. My lifetime will be devoted to leading the Union to fight against darkness and to putting an end to the 6,000-year era of darkness. Long Haochen's speech was sonorous and resounding. His voice was not a heavy one, but it carried a feeling of firmness of spirit. Hearing him, the powerhouses present from the 6 great temples felt that yet another holy war was going to take place. After pausing, Long Haochen continued, I am still young, and the union has just been set up, so I will need everyone's kind support. In the following period of time, I may not have much time to spare for handling the matters of the union, as my mates and me will have to increase our strength in the shortest time possible. The union will be mostly handled by Vice Chairman Long Qianying, Vice Chairman Li Xingxi, Vice Chairman Ling Xiao and the rest of you deputies. The rest of the conference went without a hitch. Although Long Haochen was the chairman of the union, the most important to him was still to increase his personal strength. He and the rest of Bright Glimmer of Hope were still young, and had a far higher margin for progression. Long Haochen had a few matters to handle next. The first was to strive for acquiring his own divine throne. Should he get a divine throne, that would not only be of great benefit for his cultivation, but also increase his prestige. Afterwards, came the issue of Haoyue's evolution. The power of the purplish gold Haoyue sword made him realize the importance of Haoyue's evolution. The six-headed him was already so powerful that, should he evolve to an eight-headed state, his strength would be bound to increase several folds. When the time comes, maybe Haochen would have the ability to contend against the demon god emperor with Haoyue's assistance. The meeting proceeded in a rather mild manner, and the integration of the 6 great temples was the main issue they dealt with. First of all, the 6 great temples were to dispatch a batch of powerhouses to gather in the holy city, and all train together. The allocation was 4,000 warriors, 1,000 knights, and 500 each of assassins, mags, summoners, and priests. It would be called a Union's Legion, with each legion formed of, besides these 7,000 powerhouses of the 6 great temples, an additional 40,000 for a total of close to 50,000. First off, 2 legions would be set up, under the name of Union's First Legion, and Union's Second Legion. After going through processes of unified training and integration, they would be directly thrown into the border area with the responsibility of guarding the rather weaker Southern Mountain Pass and Exorcist Mountain Pass. Next, would get transferred other lots of powerhouses from the 6 great temples for integration until the original Temple Alliance's 6 great temples forces all formed entirely into the pattern of the Union's legions. The 6 great forts were to be temporarily guarded just as before by the 6 temples separately. After all, the 6 forts' forces were too deep-rooted. Although the establishment of the Union was settled, they couldn't be too extreme either. It needed to go through a process of transformation, so that the first batch of practitioners of the 6 great temples would come within 1 year, to slowly let the concept of 6 temples be watered down. The whole process would surely need a lot of time. For the practitioners of the 6 great temple as well as the masses to accept the new union would require a long process. However, while under the premise of the demon threat's existence, this wouldn't take too long thanks to the united joint efforts of the 6 great temple's powerhouses. As soon as the temple union was entirely restructured into a cohesive force, that was the time the union planned to launch the counterattack against demonkind. The conference having ended satisfactorily, Long Haochen immediately expressed the will to leave Holy City on the next day to travel for the Night Temple. Haoyue was the major reason why Long Haochen was so eager to return. After his transformation into the purplish gold Haoyue sword, his blood link with Haochen could be said to have risen to a new level, and in addition, Haochen's further progress of his strength in this period of time also affected him to some extent. So, his evolution was now on the brink of surging out, and at any time could possibly be impossible to suppress anymore. In his last evolution, Haoyue encountered the powerful attacks of the Lich King, so the success of his evolution was greatly a matter of luck. Also, based on the pattern of their encounters, almost all of Haoyue's evolutions had attracted the attention of enemies which only got stronger and stronger. As this time involved a rise from 6 heads to 8, it would not only take even longer, but attract the attention of still stronger enemies. Long Haochen really didn't dare lower his guard at all. With just one mistake, Haoyue could get into unredeemably desperate straits. Therefore, they had to make complete preparations, the major point being in increasing their strength. Because of Haoyue's secret classification, Long Haochen couldn't borrow the power of the 6 great temples, and was only able to rely on their own team. As a light user, he was clearly the member whose strength it was most important to increase. If he could obtain a divine throne, they would have a far better grasp on the situation. The reason why they did not immediately proceed for the Night Temple was that they had another important matter still unresolved. After rising to the chairman of the new union, Long Haochen's status became completely different. They no longer lived in the Night Temple, but the highest class of the Union headquarters dwellings. Although the topmost floor of the former Temple Alliance's administrative area was the smallest one, it was still over 1,000 square meters in size. It should now be called the Union Chairman's administrative floor. The whole area was cut up into a lot of regions, large offices, lounges, an area specialized for cultivating, a library, and botanic areas. Although there were no lavish decorations, that was still an elegant design overall. Let alone for just Long Houchen, even their whole demon hunt squad found that space to be extremely large. Let's all rest here for this evening. We will depart for the night temple tomorrow in the morning. Long Houchen announced to the group. Han Yu asked, is it okay not to wait for your chairman seal to be made first, chairman? Long Houchen forced a bitter smile, just keep calling me captain. It feels awkward to hear you call me chairman. Bright Glimmer of Hope's original team of 7 got the chairman position, 3 vice-chairman seats, and the other 3 became council members. As for Zhong Fangfang, Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi, they took council spots for the night temple, visibly preparing ahead of time for the sake of getting their future successors ready. One could say that this temple's great gathering's greatest winner was the Night Temple. Although Houchen had become the union's chairman in his status as captain of Bright Glimmer of Hope, in the end he was also a knight. His grandfather and father were all leading figures of the Night Temple, divine knights. With that, his relationship with the Night Temple couldn't possibly diminish with time. Also, Long Houchen aside, his teams Han Yu, Zhong Fangfang, Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi were all extraordinary powerhouses of the younger generation, Han Yu and Zhong Fangfang having both broken through to the 9th step of cultivation, and Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi, the peak of the 8th step. Even by their strength alone, they were qualified to be designated council members from the Night Temple. After all, they were still so young. Originally, the Mage Temple's greatest advantage over the Night Temple was the latter's didn't have enough up-and-coming talent to replace the older generation, but this session proved that this point of view was to be entirely reviewed. The appearance of 5 great younger knights to smoothly take over from the older generation raised expectations for their future. Long Qianying and Yang Haohan were rather low-key in the conference, in which the Night Temple was once again the greatest winner. The new union could really be said to have prepared a perfect layout to convince the other temples. The other ones all smiled in reaction to Long Houchen's words. Looking at each other, they still had quite eerie feelings, unused to such new statuses. But they all knew without a doubt that their positions and duties within the union had become completely different after going through the temple's great gathering as well as this conference. In particular, Long Houchen was already shouldering the heavy responsibility of leading humankind to destroy all demonkind. Long Houchen declared to Zhong Fangfang, Yang Wenjiao, and Duan Yi, brothers Zhong, Yang, Duan. The 3 of you have been following Bright Glimmer of Hope for some time already. After going through the gathering, you can be considered a part of our team. As such, you will also be subjected to Bright Glimmer of Hope's rules. Our Demon Hunt squad has always followed the rule of equally splitting our contributions. Now that we are back, please hand over your contribution points. All 3 were in faint shock. Long Houchen's demand was very simple, but, as it seemed a bit out of place considering his broad character, all 3 had quite strange feelings. But they did not give it much thought, and all took out their contribution points to transfer them to Long Houchen's contribution tile. In fact, these 3 all used to be Demon Hunt squad captains. Although the contribution points they had piled up over the years couldn't compare to the count of Bright Glimmer of Hope's members, that was still no small count. Chen Ying pouted in reaction, you can't bully them, Captain. Long Houchen had a grin, saying no more. Instead, Lin Xin let out a laugh. How come it seems like the little hen is spreading her wings, now she's defending her man? Chen Ying replied in great anger, you're the hen. Has drugs, bro, are you in for a beating? Forgot about the time you got beaten up till you were all swollen. Lin Xin let out a snort, I don't remember such a thing. Kia was already standing, just at Houchen's side, so, we going now? She had seen through Long Houchen's intention, and only she knew what purpose he had when recovering the contribution points of the 3 of them. Long Houchen nodded, we are going now. We'll be leaving tomorrow at dawn, so let's take care of these matters ASAP. It's already noon, but we should have enough time. Chen Ying looked at Long Houchen with a teary face. What are you talking about, boss? We are done with the conference, so what more is there for us to do? He smiled in response, there is a place we have not visited for a long time, and it should be quite relaxing. Let's go now. The bald priest Simas Yan's eyes suddenly lit. I know, the Demon Hunt Squad's transaction center. Long Houchen showed Simas Yan his thumbs up. Smart. Time to go now. Hearing Simas Yan's statement, the whole group's eyes lit up. Right? They hadn't been to the transaction center for a very, very long time now. After so many years, they had amassed millions of contribution points to use up. Captain, Yang Wenjiao's face turned red, clearly filled with emotions. The same went for Duan Yi and Zhong Fangfang, who immediately realized why Long Haochen had just recovered their contribution points. It was for purchasing whole new sets of equipment for the three of them. Given Long Haochen's personal character, the gear he would buy them would certainly far exceed their contribution point counts. It was clearly because he was worried about them refusing the present that he had formulated his words otherwise, having them hand over their contribution points as being given the same treatment as the rest of the Demon Hunt Squad. Bright glimmer of hope. This way, conducting their purchases in their stead was only to be expected. Not only was it helping them, it was moreover giving them a lot of face. Long Haochen revealed a smile. Don't worry. If you take me as your captain, just listen to my arrangements. Sima Xian remarked, Boss, bring along my little flower girl. With her present, no good things will escape our nets. Long Haochen showed some hesitation. Are titled Demon Hunt Squads allowed to bring outsiders to the Demon Hunt Squad's transaction center? Lin Xin remarked, Boss, you're now the chairman of the union. Shouldn't this matter be easily resolved? Long Haochen replied with a stern look, the post of chairman of the union is not a privilege but a responsibility. Sima Xian responded, Boss, be at ease. My little white flower is the successor of the Alliance's great auction house, which entertains a great trading relationship with the Demon Hunt Squad's transaction center, and is thus allowed to enter every section of the transaction center. It won't bring us any inconvenience. Don't just forsake her because of her age. She's the current chief appraiser of the Alliance's great auction house. I'm pretty sure that no one knows better than her what good things the Demon Hunt Squad's transaction center has in store. Even the most newly arrived treasures won't escape her eye. Seeing his air of complacency, Wang Yuan laughed in response. Sima, some saliva is about to leak from the happy you. He replied without much thought, that's some saliva of happiness. Long Haochen smiled, all right, Sima, invite Miss Feng Linger. We are heading for the transaction center first. Let's gather in a bit. Yes, Chairman. Sima Xian suddenly bowed in response before turning back at a run, and the rest couldn't help but let out a burst of laughter. They were not only back, but they had achieved their plans perfectly. A new chapter was beginning in their life. Demon Hunt Squad's transaction center. Bright glimmer of hope's appearance was extremely low-key. Each of them were clad in a cloak, and Long Haochen did not utilize his authority as the chairman of the union in the least, acting just like any ordinary Demon Hunt Squad as they stealthily made their way inside. The transaction center was completely filled to the brim, and due to the temple's great gathering, many Demon Hunt Squads had chosen to attend. Most recently, that place was really bustling with people, and filled with good things. Long Haochen's crew naturally wouldn't stop at the first floor, and directly headed toward the second. Large crowds were piling up on the way, and suddenly, a youth was seen jumping up and crying out in cheer. Very good, I've finally got my hands on it. This trivial-sounding jump just happened to block the way of Long Haochen's group. The youth's mates who were also in the midst of excitement also contributed to blocking the way. Excuse me, please let us by. On Haochen's side, Anyu's words were deliberately low-sounding, just loud enough for these youths to all be able to hear. When that youth turned his head, he couldn't help but feel startled about noticing Long Haochen's cloaked group. He immediately took out a large sword, which looked to be a pretty okay piece of magic equipment. Although, this assessment was based on the first floor of the Demon Hunt Squad's transaction center. These youngsters looked quite fine, only somewhat young and inexperienced. When seeing this group not only cloaked, but furthermore most of them having their heads lowered, he couldn't help but reveal a look of curiosity. You are demon hunters too? We are the champion newcomer Demon Hunt Squad, number 1 Demon Hunt Squad of soldier grade. At the youth's side, a proud-sounding girl spoke. The youth shot her a glare. What are you showing off about? He then apologetically nodded to Han Yu, and hurriedly moved out of the way with his group. Hearing the title of number 1 soldier grade Demon Hunt Squad, the cloaked members of Bright Glimmer of Hope all couldn't help but raise their heads. Number 1 soldier grade, what a familiar appellation. 10 years ago, that was theirs. Seeing these youngsters, all sorts of feelings were welling up from their hearts. After stopping for a bit, Long Haochen smiled to these young demon hunters, before leading the group to the second floor. The number 1 soldier grade Demon Hunt Squad's youngsters were quite perturbed by this smile. His smiling expression was really refreshing, like a breeze of spring wind or a ray of sunlight. Its sight seemed to cleanse one's soul. So handsome. The girl who spoke previously couldn't help but blurt out. He looked a bit familiar. Another youngster said. The one at their lead suddenly began shaking, and lost his voice. They are the ones from the Demon Hunt Squad, bright glimmer of hope. And the one who just smiled at us was their captain Long Houchen. Didn't he just become the chairman of the Union? The announcement regarding the new alliance was already pasted onto the walls of Holy City by this afternoon. A girl muttered, in those years, the Demon Hunt Squad bright glimmer of hope seems to have also begun from being the #1 soldier-grade Demon Hunt Squad. Due to their cries of alarm, the nearby demon hunters were all interested. Unfortunately, the figures of Long Houchen's crew had already disappeared up the second floor's steps. Everyone always headed for the topmost floors of the Demon Hunt Squad's transaction center. With each floor less filled than the previous one, the top floor seemed absolutely empty. This place was like a lounge, with a comfortable sofa on the side. Seeing them enter, an elder immediately stepped forward, and respectfully bowed to them. "Sir Demon Hunters, may I ask what you need?" Being able to make it to this floor was ample proof of their statuses, as only titled Demon Hunt Squads were eligible to enter this floor. Long Houchen took out his cloak, and smiled to him, "Greetings. Can you please help us confirm our contribution point count, and then show us all the equipment of at least epic tier that is available? I'll be bothering you. Also, we will also need a spatial silver crystal." "Understood," the elder replied, withdrawing slowly. Don't forsake this old man for being just an employee. From the fluctuations of his spiritual energy, Long Houchen could perceive that his cultivation reached the 8th step. After they became a Demon Hunt Squad of titled grade, they no longer needed to search for items in there. They only needed to look through the catalog, then choose, which was far more convenient than for the lower-grade Demon Hunt Squads. Moreover, any of the transaction center's goods and equipment could be picked with priority given to the titled Demon Hunt Squads. They were even able to make credit transactions for their purchases, although that was within a certain limit obviously. A short time later, the old man brought a tray in front of Houchen. On the tray was a rectangular crystal. 1/3 of a meter long, and 1/6 of a meter wide. It had a clear image displayed on it. From the looks of it, that was like a miniaturized version of the magic transmission crystals that were outside the Alliance's great stadium. Long Houchen took out the crystal, placing it in his hand. A list scrolled onto the screen, each item accompanied with a small image. Long Houchen unconsciously placed his hand upon the first image, and a radiance was immediately shot out from the screen and toward the sky, coming to the clear sight of everyone present. That was a gorgeous mage gown, colored dark gold, and adorned with gold silk embroidery, with a sumptuous golden dragon design on it. The lower part of the gown was dark gold, while the upper part was the color of pure gold. The chest part's buckle was embedded with a fist-sized reddish gold gem. The whole gown let out an orange luster full of softness. Although that was just an image projection, it looked really lifelike, just as if the real thing was standing in front of their eyes. It was also slowly rotating, its glistening glow comparable with the glow of the epic tier, seemingly mesmerizing everyone in its display of pride. The elder who had handed them the magic projector explained, "This magic gown is called Glorious Holy Fire's Praise. Reaching the epic tier, and compatible with light and fire mags, it favors fire mags. Holy light is supplementing its fire's might, thus decreasing any fire mage's use of spiritual energy by a half, while increasing its might by 20% and infusing holy light properties into the mage's fire attacks. The gown has the attached ability Glorious Praise, usable once a day, and which requires it to be bathed under sunlight for 1 hour to be used. Glorious Praise will, upon use, ignite all the holy light spiritual energy within Glorious Holy Fire's Praise to instantly produce a powerful Glorious Saint Fire, lasting for 10 minutes and getting attached to all subsequent spells." Seeing the dazzling Glorious Holy Fire's Praise, all bright glimmer of hope were in a daze, including Long Houchen as well. They had seen several divine tools already, but outside them, this Glorious Holy Fire's Praise was the most powerful piece of equipment they had ever seen. Lin Xin immediately stood in excitement, looking excited and itching to rush into that image. As it stands, the only one among bright glimmer of hope to be a fit for this magic gown was him, and moreover, he was intrinsically a lover of such flashy items. The elder continued, "In some sense, this Glorious Holy Fire's Praise is actually a piece of equipment that can be placed above equipment of epic tier. The gap between such epic and divine tool tiers is actually a half realm. Equipment of this grade is known as immortal grade, or subdivine tools. However, equipment of this level are almost as rare as the divine tool grade, and thus hard to find. Glorious Holy Fire's Praise is made by getting sewn with a fire dragon's main bone, with a large variety of rare material added to that. These materials correspond to an item reaching a divine tool, But in the process of item making, because the material of light and fire was burning overly fiercely, it conflicted to a certain extent, thus finally not crossing this threshold. Long Houchen lightly nodded, while looking at Lin Xin on the other side, finding out that Lin Xin had his mouth wide opened, simply leaking with saliva. That mine? Long Houchen couldn't help but laugh in spite of himself, but fortunately didn't ask him further. Senior, how much for the glorious holy fire's praise? The elder made a little pause before replying. The glorious holy fire's praise is set at the marked price of 2,400,000 contribution points. Hearing this count, everyone couldn't help but gasp. One should know that contribution points value is almost 100-fold times gold's value. So 2,400,000 contribution points was an astronomical number, even for a titled Great Demon Hunt squad. Houchen had once asked his grandfather the value of epic tier equipment, and Long Qianying's response was that, generally, epic tier equipment's value would range between 50,000 and 100,000 contribution points. But he didn't think that it could cost such a large price. Over these years, the Demon Hunt squad Bright Glimmer of Hope had accumulated an astronomical amount of contribution points, but based on Houchen's estimate, that was just about 10 million. And this time, it was for an equipment exchange on the scale of their whole team that they had come. If one item cost over 2 million contribution points, that was really somewhat of an unbearable cost. Senior, how many contribution points has our team accumulated so far? Long Houchen asked after a short time of stupor. He had actually already decided to purchase this magic gown. As the only mage in the team, Lin Xin's high explosive power and damage were his greatest assets. If he could gain a supportive spell such as Glorious Praise, this would be a great trump card when facing demonkind. When reaching the part about Bright Glimmer of Hope's contribution points, the elder's expression became increasingly more respectful. He spent all year in the topmost floor of the transaction center, and didn't know much about the Alliance's decision of becoming the Union. But he was extremely sensible to contribution points worth, and had encountered the terrifying contribution point counts of several titled Great Demon Hunt squad, but this Demon Hunt squad Bright Glimmer of Hope was definitely the most terrifying so far. On the contribution point tile was recorded the ages of Long Houchen's crew, as well as their Demon Hunt squad's accomplishments. When the elder had first seen their group, he believed they just looked so young because of their high cultivation, but after looking at the contribution points tile's records, he realized that these were really such youngsters. Yet, those youngsters had such an incomparably shocking count of experiences and contributions. Esteemed Captain Long Houchen, your noble team has amassed a total count of 14,628,631 contribution points. Because of your identities as a titled Great Demon Hunt squad, you will preferentially benefit from a 20% discount on any of our transaction center's goods. Over 14 million, that was really an incomparably shocking number. Especially for Zhong Fangfang, Yang Wenjiao, and Duan Yi, who confirmed their previous guesses from hearing it, and were greatly appreciative to Long Houchen. Added up, the contributions of the three of them would at most have reached 1 million or so. But compared to the average, that was still an enormous count. This instant, Sima Xian's voice came out from the entrance to the top floor. Aish, what a pretty robe. Boss, is this for me? Sima Xian could be seen bringing his little white flower toward the rest of the group. Fenglinga was clad in a white gown, giving her a look really befitting her nickname of Little White Flower. After bowing slightly to Long Houchen's group, her gaze landed on the glorious Holy Fire's Praise's shadow. On the other side, Lin Xin cast an angry look at Sima Xian. What's for you? This is clearly a piece of equipment for fire mags such as me. Sima Xian snorted. Save your talk. Just by the color you can tell that it has the light attribute. How could it be a thing for fire mags of your ilk? Your bro is a mage too, a priest. Lin Xin let out a sudden smile. All right, for you then. Sima Xian was startled. Since when have you been so easy to deal with? Lin Xin unhappily responded. Even if I let you, can you even wear it? You're a magic user? There's only one such freak as you in the whole Union. You're thinking of fighting in this gown you could possibly rip at any time with your build? As long as you're willing to bring it along in the battlefield, I'm letting you have it. Hearing his statement, Sima Xian felt suddenly thwarted. Indeed, he was a priest, but one wearing heavy armor. Putting this gown on, he was truly afraid it wouldn't be of much use, and the gown would only be waiting to get ruined. Long Houchen stated, all right. You may all have a seat. Miss Fenglinga, how do you view this piece of equipment? Fenglinga said, this glorious holy fire's praise comes from a fire fairy's remnants. That's a rare fire gown, and at least in the history of the Union, it is a unique item. But it has a spiritual nature, so using it requires first gaining its approval. I suggest you give it a try, and decide to purchase it only if you manage to gain its approval. That elder nodded as well. Miss Phonelinger is right. I would also suggest the same. Long Houchen nodded. All right, then I will bother you to get it for us. Then, let's keep looking through the recorded equipment. Finger moving downwards, Long Houchen chose an item, and in a flash of shadow, a blue sapphire necklace appeared in the air. Phonelinger directly shook her head. This is for water mags, not fitting for you guys. We can pass it. She had a rather good understanding of the abilities of Bright Glimmer of Hope's crew, so with her here, the equipment selection was saved much trouble. Afterwards came a detailed selection, with the Demon Hunt Squad's transaction center being worthy of getting called the richest place of the whole alliance. Even Phonelinger said that the equipment reaching at least the epic tier in this place was several-fold more than in her alliance's great auction house. The whole selection went for an afternoon. Divine tools wouldn't appear in this place, because equipment of this grade would all be taken by the temples upon appearing. They were just such rare existences. However, they still got quite a lot of good things there. In the end, they had picked over 10 items of epic tier. But only 3 of them reached the immortal tier. Esteemed Captain Long Houchen. After discount, this equipment will require a total of 20.62 million contribution points. Your titled Great Demon Hunt Squad can borrow up to 5 million contribution points, but even when adding that to your original contribution count, that is still over 1 million short. How about you let go of 1 item? Let go? How could that be done? Every single piece of equipment had been chosen for its target, and would be very hard to trade off. Before letting Long Houchen have the time to respond, Phonelinger suddenly exclaimed, Elder Son, the Demon Hunt Squad Bright Glimmer of Hope is the leading party of the new union. Also, I am willing to vouch for them in my capacity as the owner of the Alliance's great auction house. Just lend them a bit more. Within 5 years, you are sure to be clear with them. The elder she called Elder Son replied, after shortly hesitating, I need to ask the higher-ups for instructions regarding this matter. No need to ask for instructions, just give them. A familiar voice suddenly rang out, and immediately, a familiar man came out from a room within the top floor. Seeing this person, Long Houchen couldn't help but stand in stupor. Grandpa Yang, how come you're here? The old man who had suddenly barged in was no one else but the strongest knight of the Night Temple, known by the title of Starry Sky Knight and the name Yang Haoyu. Yang Haoyu smiled to him, Chairman, I am the one in charge of managing the Demon Hunt Squad's Transaction Center and Mission Pagoda. However, very few know about this matter. Even the heads of the 6 great temples are in the dark. Our Demon Hunt Squad's department has always been managed by a Demon Hunter President, and only Demon Hunt Squads reaching at least the Emperor grade are qualified to know about the Demon Hunter President. As the one managing all matters related to the Demon Hunt Squads, they can be called the greatest manager of all Demon Hunt Squads. And this generation's Demon Hunter President is me. If Chairman is interested, you could well take over to become the next Demon Hunter President in charge. Reaching this part, Yang Haoyu's smile became even more pronounced. Facing these youngsters before his eyes, he couldn't be any more satisfied. Especially the Night Temple's prospects, which could only be described as perfect. Now that Long Houchen's identity was already no longer the same, even he had to call him Chairman when facing him. Long Houchen hurriedly shook his head, Grandpa Yang, I already have enough matters in my hand. I can't bear this position as Demon Hunter President. Moreover, you are still so young, you can very well keep this position for several hundred more years. Having you as our overseer is our Demon Hunter community's bliss. Yang Haoyu responded, enough. You can all pack up your things and go. Leave the rest to me, you have to return in the Night Temple now. Don't forget about the matters I have told you, I wish you success. Long Houchen placed his right fist on his chest, and performed a standard knight salute, Grandpa Yang, thank you for your support. We definitely won't disappoint you. Yang Haoyu showed an indifferent smile, I am not supporting you, but our future in resisting demonkind. Enchantingly glowing equipment for epic tier were brought out by the group. Amongst these, Long Houchen did not have a single one and Cair only had an inner full body armor. Chen Yinger got a 6-sided crystal ball of epic tier. And the others reaped plentiful gains. This video will end here.